What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lasting Thoughts Podcast. I am your host, Digital Relaxation. We are back again for another episode, and this is the last episode recorded of 2022, but this is going to be the first episode of the new year. So, as you are listening to this, Happy New Year to everybody. Sure, everybody is setting out their New Year resolution goals and all of that. I don't think I really have one, at least because I'm still in the past. So I'm not thinking about it. So maybe by the time I'm done recording this, I'll probably have one. But as of right now, nah. Granted, this was a very solid, great year. No complaints. I noticed things got shaky in a certain area in my life, and that episode might be the next episode I'll be able to talk about that. And unfortunately, I said last episode that I wanted to try to get a guest on this episode, but scheduling and whatever. So hopefully we can make that happen next episode. So you just got me. So I'm rambling. I didn't even properly start. Well, I did properly start, but you know what I mean. I usually say what I usually say. You guys like what you hear, what you're gonna hear. Please be sure to share this, rate it, all of that good stuff. That should be the New Year goal. Y'all should be rating this podcast for next year if y'all haven't. Get everybody who who likes podcasts to rate this as well. But yeah, so start off as always. Well, I'm gonna do the wrap up. So I'm gonna be talking about just about not everything, but different things that I've been into during the year that, the things that stuck with me or I enjoyed. But as of this moment, what I'm currently into, I finally started to rewatch The Wire again. I am almost done with the second season, and I enjoyed. And that's what I'm saying. Like watching things again when you have more grasp of the characters and what's the story that's being told. I enjoyed the second season a lot more than the first viewing, because usually that's the season that kind of stops everything for we were following the specific storyline, and then the storyline just shifted to something completely different in the second season, but they were still sprinkling the previous storyline in the background. So it was we trying to follow up with 3 different storylines, and it was but yeah, I was able to enjoy that because I was able to understand what characters' roles were now, because now that I know who everybody are by the end of the show, seeing certain characters who got established, who had a major role in the later season, seeing them they are debuting in this season, and it's now I can see where their mindset was when they first came here and why they got to a certain point. So seeing the little puzzles and the breadcrumbs being formed, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. And of course I am playing Cyberpunk yet again. I am on my 5th playthrough. I am doing another male nomad, only because I feel like all my males have been they got the short end of the stick of me enjoying the game, because of course the number one, not the number one, but the common criticism for the male V is usually the voice actor. His voice kind of brings you out the immersion, because he sounds a certain way. So if you make your character to look a certain way, the voice won't match how you look. So it's kind of rough. And you could kind of get that with female V too, but not so much. But yeah. So my first playthrough ever was a Mel V, but like I said, I didn't enjoy my first playthrough at all. I didn't understand how to play the game properly, none of that. My third Mel V was honestly, he was just a sacrifice. I literally just made him just so I can get the final achievement for when I'm 100%. So this is gonna be my legit first Mel V that I focus like his build and focus on the immersion of the game, and so I'm taking my time with this one. And like I said, I already got a 6 playthrough already in my mind. So Cyberpunk, that's just been my game like all year. But yeah, that's mainly what I've been up to. I mean, there's other things going on in my life too, but not saying I want to brag, but I don't know, I just don't feel like putting it out there like that. Just doing what I can, living my life. So yeah, let's get started with this wrap up. Like, I'm gonna do this in categories. This might be short, might be long, I don't know, depending on what it is I'm speaking about. The first thing, of course, is my podcast. I would put this last, but honestly, there's only one thing that I focused on my podcast for 2022, which was my goal, was to have more guests on this podcast, which I did achieve this goal. And if I can think off the top of my head, I had 6 or 7 guests on my podcast this year. So compared to when I first did my podcast, I think I only had like 3 guests. Yeah, so I guess I doubled my guest rate. And like this episode was supposed to be a guest episode, which would have been the 7th or 8th guest, even though technically this episode, this episode was already supposed to be out. I skipped the week mainly because, Christmas. Speaking of that, because like this was also supposed to be a Christmas kind of theme episode as well. But since we're on the New Year, so yeah, let me quickly just talk about Christmas. Well, not really talk about Christmas, but more so as hope you guys all had a great Christmas. Hopefully you guys got some cool things or just basic necessities that you probably didn't feel like getting for yourself, but somebody gifted for you. And yeah, just spent time with the family and have a good time. That's mainly what I did. But yeah, Christmas. But this is the New Year episode now, so sadly I can't really get into the festive mood anymore. So yeah, this episode was supposed to have been out last week, but I gave a break because of all I wanted to do the guests, and Christmas was happening, and schedules was conflicting, so I took this week off, just have a break, and then we come back. But here we are. So yeah, I'm satisfied with having more guests, but sadly, to be negative, the guest that I wanted on my podcast the most, who has yet to go on my podcast, is my best friend. I mentioned her in like almost every episode, and I don't know, just been wanting us to do an episode for the longest, and things just got hectic for her, especially now in this time. So that got even more and more hard to do, which is crazy because I got her on my game when I did my gaming podcast with Dodge. We got her on that podcast, but I wanted her on this one because of more variety of what I talk about, and I know how me and her speak. So, and I like hearing her point of view of stuff. I enjoy listening to her talk. So, but yeah, So that's the only negative thing about my guest. The guest I wanted the most is the one who I couldn't get, but I got a few guests, some guests that I just met through podcast groups. Some guests were friends of mine, so meeting new people, meeting friends. I also I also made my first appearance on somebody else's podcast, which that was Mutinous Black Moriarty. He was the last guest on my podcast. I was on his show at first, and returned the favor. He appeared on my podcast. So it's nice to make friends through podcasting as well. People with common goals and common interests and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say my goal is the same, because I'm in a different point in my life right now with not so much podcasting, but so much more of my social life. Like I said, I'm gonna talk more about that in the next episode, but brief speak on it about I'm slowly removing myself from social media, but I gotta promote my podcast and stuff, so trying to figure out how I'm gonna do that. Also dealing with wanting to rebrand my stuff as well, but yeah, whatever. I'm not sure, well, I doubt it, but also on my YouTube channel, Digital Relaxation, I uploaded my third episode of the What If series, where I talked about the All City Chess Club, which is a rap group that Lupe Fiasco tried to form, but sadly was short-lived, as they only was able to just do one song together, and then they just disbanded. So you want to know about that, check out my YouTube and hear about that rap group and what happened. So yeah, that's podcast. Let's get into the next thing. Let's talk about movies. I saw a few movies, but in terms of what came out this year, the ones that I enjoyed the most, I enjoyed Doctor Strange. Because I forgot. I thought that Spider-Man was this year, but it wasn't. It was actually last year. Well, 2 years ago. Jeez. So there's that. Doctor Strange and Black Panther, of course, MCU films. Those were some good films. Thor was alright, but it wasn't groundbreaking. Not saying that they need to be groundbreaking, but I didn't resonate with it to put it on this list of movies I thoroughly enjoyed. It was just cool to watch. But yeah, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, One Piece, of course. This is my second time watching a One Piece film in theaters. Actually seen Doctor Strange and Black Panther in theaters as well. Been going to the theaters a lot, apparently. But yeah, I think Film Z was in theaters in America, but I did not see that in theaters because I was still a broke college kid, I think. So I didn't watch that. I don't know about Strong World either, but yeah. But I did watch Stampede and this one. Why the hell can I think of the name? Shit. The name escapes me. Film Red. Because I'm thinking also, because I skipped, I said Film Z, but I also skipped Film Gold, or I think it's Film Gold or something like that. That was the movie that came after Z, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like that's like one of the weakest One Piece movie in the fandom in terms of like the time skip movies. I think that's like one of the weakest, or the weakest of the time skip movies, but altogether probably one of the weakest. But yeah, another movie that I watched that came out this year, but I forgot that it came out this year, which was on Netflix, Bullet Train. I talked about that, I think, last episode. So yeah, those are the movies that came out this year that I enjoyed. Of course, I watched other stuff that I talked about. I talked about the Rush Hour trilogy. I talked about The Mask shortly. So yeah, movies. Going into music, albums that came out. I wrote this, but I think this came out this year. Let me make sure. Yeah, it did come out this year. All right. So music, I put this one kind of at a tie, but I got Denzel Curry and Joey Badass. Well, because originally I was doing this listing as in like the top 5 things I enjoyed this year. It'll probably be me and the guest, but yeah. So I can just talk more about music I was into and whatnot, or just the music in general. But Denzel Curry dropped his album early in the year. If I'm not mistaken, this came out March. So yeah, he topped the year off with this album. This is the 3rd album of Denzel Curry I have listened to. I heard Unlocked. That's technically an EP. But yeah. I didn't get into Denzel Curry until Taboo. So I'm not gonna claim I'm the biggest Denzel Curry fan, but it was one of those things where he randomly came on my recommended on YouTube, and I'm like, let me check this dude out. And I didn't realize that he was actually the dude who made what's the song? What's the song? I don't want to say Infinite. I don't think it's Infinite. Ultimate. That song, which that was like a popular song. I don't want to say during Vine days, but probably towards the end of Vine days, I think. That was kind of a popular song. Like towards the end of Vine. So I didn't even know that was him. But yeah, I got into him to Taboo. Then Zoo came out. That was a good one. Zoo was a very balanced, because usually when you hear Denzel Curry, it's like, he's all over the place with his energy and whatnot. Zoo just felt like a rap album, if that makes sense. Like, if you listen to his music, most of his stuff is kind of experimental in terms of like the traditional hip hop. So Zoo felt more just like, this is just a plain rap album. And then he dropped Melt My Eyes, See Your Future this year, which was a good album. I enjoyed that. I definitely played it a lot when it first came out. I recently went back to it again, and it's still good, still holds up. Good album. Denzel Curry, I saw a video. I didn't watch it. I saw the title of the video called like the Denzel Curry Problem or something like that. And I don't know what he spoke about in the video, but just seeing the title and going off of my assumption, I felt like the thing with Denzel Curry, which he also kind of mentioned in this album, is like, despite he's supposed to be one of those like the leader, well, not the leader, but one of the new generation when the freshman list, I think this was 2016 freshman, the infamous quote famous freshman list. So he was on the 2016 freshman cover, and when you look at the cover, I think the problem is that you would look at him and categorize him as this kind of rapper, especially when, like I said, his most popular song, if you don't know him, was Ultimate, which if you heard that song, that's like the most out there song ever. Like he's just top of his lungs shouting and the beat is just knocking hard as hell. So you think he's just like one of these hype young rappers. So and they put him into Cypher, which is like, I think this is like the most viewed Cypher in the freshman list of like all freshman list, which is him, Little Uzi Vert, Lil Yachty, Kodak Black, and 21 Savage. And it's like when you look at them by picture, he fits, because this is when he was still rocking his dreads, but now he cut his hair recently and got it into like a spiky afro, like a Super Saiyan, because he is inspired by anime as well. But yeah, when you look at him, he looks like he fits. But if you listen to his actual music, like you really a fan of his music, he does not fit at all, because he's an actual dope rapper compared to the other dudes. There's just like, not saying that they trash, but like their style is like they aren't the same. So I kind of felt like I don't know what it is. It's like he just got categorized by his appearance by the mainstream world. Like people thought that this is how he was, but when you listen to the music, he's not that way. So it feels like people are like, oh, he's not what we expected to be, so how do we properly market him? So I feel like that's the issue with Denzel Curry. It's like he's good, but they try to market him one way when he started coming out, but they realized that's not how he is. So they kind of like didn't understand. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't know like his label or what his situation is, if he's backed by anybody, his management. But talking from like, I guess, fan standpoints, if your first time seeing Denzel Curry is through that Cypher or the Ultimate song, then yeah, you would understand like how to properly categorize him. But yeah, dope album. I put Joey Badass because I was supposed to put them as a tie. But Joey Badass dropped the 2000 album, which I actually recently re-listened to it yesterday of me recording this. And again, it's just a very mid, but not in a bad way, album. Like it's just there. Like it doesn't do nothing. Like he doesn't shift the culture. He doesn't. I feel like, in me personally, like he didn't level up with this album. Like he's just still where he's at, even though he claimed in the first song to be the top 3 greatest rappers of this era. I felt like he just didn't level up. And not like I said, not to throw no shade onto Joey, because I was never into Joey when he first came out. My cousin, I feel like I told the story, but to tell it again with context, my cousin tried to put me onto Joey Badass because we're all from Brooklyn, and you know, support the homies. I mean, I don't know Joey Badass personally, but you know what I mean. So like, support, the local rappers, whatever. So he came out with Survival Tactics, the music video, and he like, yo, listen to this rapper, man, he from Brooklyn, blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, I'll listen to him, I guess. And I listened to the first verse. Joey had the first verse. I'm like, all right, that's cool. That wasn't bad. And then the second verse came on, which was Capital Steez, and I'm just like, oh, this was the person you're supposed to be telling me about. So, I got more into Capital Steez music than Joey music. And unfortunately, Capital Steez ended up, taking his own life and cutting his career, his very short career, even more shorter. And it left Joey Badass in the spotlight, which they was kind of like, mainstream was kind of putting the spotlight on Joey Badass as the figurehead of the whole collective, of the whole Beast Coast. Like there was the Pro era, which that's Joey Badass and Capital Steez group. Then there was Flatbush Zombies, which was the trio, and the Underachievers, which is a duo. And they all together call themselves Beast Coast, But Joey Badass was more so like the figurehead of the whole movement, and it's like that. I don't know why they marketed him, because I guess it was the whole he's just a young dude, because he was only like 17 when he dropped his debut mixtape. So like I guess they wanted to market the young kid who gives us that 90s flow. He's bringing hip hop back. And you listen to Capital Steez, his music is very, diverse in topics. One moment he's talking about governmental corruptions, and the next moment he's just talking about things that's just his issues in his life, going through the fact that he didn't grow up with a father figure in his life, and then he had a stepfather who was on drugs, and dealing with the fact that he's getting thrust into manhood sooner than he wanted to be, while at the same time doing this music thing. And yeah, so like he was diverse into everything, and it was hard to market someone like that, who, especially the way he marketed himself with the 47 logo and everything. So yeah, but yeah, 2000, very in the middle. I wouldn't say you would dislike it if you hear it, but if you listen to Joey Badass music before, I wouldn't feel like this was the one that was like, oh, he did it again, or whatever. So that's 2000. Then next we got Kendrick. He dropped Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers at the Joey Badass and Kendrick, they both, the next three rappers, starting with Joey Badass and Kendrick, and the rapper after this, been gone in terms of the last time they dropped the album was like 5 years plus from each rapper. So Kendrick finally coming back after dropping his Damn album, which was 2017? 16? 17? Probably 17. Let me make sure. Yes, 2017. So finally dropped his Mr. Morale, Big Steppers. Was technically a double disc album, which I don't know. Funny, it didn't feel like that to me. I don't know why. Like, I guess it was just I think also because as an album altogether, I think it's short. So it didn't feel like like one long album. Yeah, the length is only 78 minutes. I mean, that's a little over an hour. Let me look at, because I know when you listen to Tupac, he dropped All Eyes on Me. I don't know how long it is, but it feels longer. They don't have the time frame. That sucks. Let me see. They're showing me the freaking movie. Trying to see how long the whole album is. Oh, there we go. Damn. So there you go. The difference between the double disc album from Kendrick was 72 minutes. That was a double disc album. Tupac's double disc album, All Eyes on Me, is 132 minutes. So yeah, like it felt longer. So I don't know, like I didn't get it felt like a double album feeling to me. It just felt like it was just one decent length album. Which I don't want to. I'm doing a whole lot of typing. Let me see this album, how long this was, if I can find it. Yeah, wow. Yeah, so I'm not trying to like downplay. It's just calling it a double album to make it because you're giving it the title that it's a double album, which that's Tupac was the first rapper to do a double album. So like to put yourself in that category as I'm one of the rappers who have a double album. And you have To Pimp a Butterfly, which is 78 minutes long. It's longer than Mr. Morale and this album. So, I don't know. So, but I think it could also be part of like moods. One half of the album can be insert, because I did that with my album, which I'll get into that later, which I categorized the track listing as a side A and side B, like when you flip one side over or whatever. But I didn't categorize it as a double album. So yeah. So Mr. Morale and Big Stepper, I was trying to re-listen to it this week so I can give a better a more recent review of how I feel about the album now. But I have not heard it in like a few months. I haven't heard it in its entirety, so I can't give a fresh perspective of the album. But I don't know. It's not a bad album. I think this is similar to Joey's Badass, honestly. I don't think, for me personally, I don't think this album did anything to make me feel like he elevated from, his last project, which even that, damn, was the same thing with me. I feel like, I don't know, I guess he kind of, for me personally, I guess he kind of shot himself in the foot with To Pimp a Butterfly. That was his, that's probably his best body of work. And I don't think Damn or Mr. Morale tops To Pimp a Butterfly. Not saying that they're bad albums. I'm just saying, like I said, to outdo your next project should always be the goal. Or to outdo your previous project should always be your goal as a rapper. And I felt like, me personally, as a listener, he has not yet to put a better project out than To Pimp a Butterfly since. But he did accomplish one thing. And I already said, Kendrick's best song, his greatest song that he ever created was on this album, which was Count Me Out. This is the first time, because when I listen to Kendrick, I listen to him by album. I rarely be like, oh, let me type up Kendrick Lamar and this song afterwards. Like, if Kendrick Lamar's songs come on, it's like through a random playlist. So I'm never seeking a song by Kendrick Lamar like that, except for one song, which was Cartoon and Cereal. At the time, that was his best song before Count Me Out came out. That was his best song to me. That song is just dope, and Gunplay verse was crazy, and I don't even think that song is on any project, which sucks. But yeah, Count Me Out, that was finally the first time Kendrick made a song where I can finally I connect to Kendrick Lamar as an artist now. He finally saying something that I can relate to now. Like, when people find their favorite rapper because they make songs that you can relate to, I felt like he has never done that with me through most of his songs. So Count Me Out was finally the song he did. That's, to me, his greatest song thus far. And yeah, That's mainly, I don't know really what else to say about that album. But going into this next album, I'm gonna skip it. I'm gonna come back to it. Nas dropped King Disease 3. I actually just listened to that yesterday as well. So I was going back and listening to a few of these albums that came out this year, so I can have fresh perspective. I don't want to say it's not mid. It's definitely not mid. The thing with me and Nas is the same thing with me and Jay-Z. Despite being from New York and whatnot, I never really listened to Nas or Jay-Z by album. That is the complete opposite from Kendrick Lamar. Like, they make dope songs that like usually that took over the radio, especially during like the early 2000s. Like, they made songs that took over. But albums, I never really ran into like their albums. Like, of course, I listened to the main suspects, Reasonable Doubt and Illmatic. But since then, like, I could probably say I listened to the Black Album and American Gangster from Jay-Z, but it's not memorable. I haven't listened to it since. Like, that was probably back in high school when I heard those. But in terms of recent years and like meaning like the past, I don't even know, like since college to now. I don't even say college, probably like 5 years from now, 6 years ago. I listened to Kingdom Come from Jay-Z, which that's like one of his albums that people didn't really like, because that was the album that he came back after his so-called retirement. And I think some people didn't like that album. I actually enjoyed that album. I think that album is underrated, since it's an album that people don't really view highly. But with Nas, I don't. Besides Illmatic, to be honest, I don't think I've listened to any Nas album entirely. So, well, of course I've listened to the King Disease trilogy, and I listened to Magic, but before that, the only album of Nas I heard was Illmatic. So when he came out with the King Disease series, I was at the age where I prefer listening to albums now, because that was one thing I used to do as a kid. I used to get albums because I just wanted to listen to the single and just, devalue the entire album effort. And sometimes I would find a song that's like not on the radio. That's like, oh, this song actually dope. Why is this not on the radio? But it was rare. So now that I got to the point where I prefer listening to albums now. When I listen to artists, like, just picking people by song is, I don't know. That's why I try not to listen to singles either, because I don't want to be misled that your album is going to sound like the single. So when he came out with the King Disease trilogy, I listened to all of them and Magic, and that's why it's hard for me to categorize if he outdid himself or whatever type thing, because like I said, all I had to go off of is Illmatic and the King Disease. I would say the album is dope. I would say this album is the best out of the trilogy, only because this is the only album that I actually went back to in the King trilogy. I mean, the King Disease trilogy. I probably only listened to the first two like once. I think King Disease 2 has the song with him and Lauryn Hill. That Lauryn Hill verse was crazy. It's either King Disease 2 or it was Magic. Let me see. The song was called Nobody, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Nobody is on King Disease 2, where Lauryn Hill comes and drops a dope verse. Even King Disease 1, which was what's the song? Ultra Black, 27 Summers. Car 85 was cool as well. The whole album, like, bro, the King Disease trilogy is dope. I'm not gonna undermine it. I'm just saying, King Disease 3 is, if like, I feel like every album was a step up. So he did do what he should have been doing, which was progress through each album, especially at this point of his career where he did not need to do this at all. That's why I was looking at him sideways when this man just came out of nowhere and said, hey, in the span of 4 years or 3 years, I'm just gonna drop 4 albums. I'm like, bro, you already cemented yourself. So, and top tier albums at that. It's not like he just dropped some whatever. I just want to rap. So, yeah. We got Novelist. I thought Book of Change came out this year. It was actually November. When you hear this, it's gonna be New Year. It came out November 21. So I can't count that. Even though that was heavy in my rotation from, like, that was my winter album. Like, I remember just being in the cold last winter, bumping that album strictly. Especially because he has a song called Cold Mountain, which is my favorite song on that album, which is like the most chill beat song ever. You just in the cold, just vibing, especially with the job I'm doing. So he came back with the Vagabond EP, which is mainly inspired by the manga, because I listened to his podcast and he talks about he was reading the Vagabond manga. Like, he was heavily into it. Like, he finished the whole thing in like a matter of weeks. So he inspired a whole rap EP based off of that. But he also mentioned other things too. There's one song called, I think it's called Zatoichi, which is, he was into the Zatoichi film as well. So I like that. It's like, you know what he's like into in his life when he talks about certain things in his songs and the references. But yeah, the Vagabond EP is dope. Like, it's EP, so it's nice and short, but has some good replay value. Dope project. I was gonna say no, I did not, but I don't even think it's for sale for vinyl yet. I did get his I just said it, Book of Changes on vinyl. So yeah. This next one, this was the long awaited. I talked about this man most times when I talk about music, and of course when this year started, I was slowly keeping my eye on him because he was slowly dropping singles and whatnot. And I believe I mentioned last podcast that week of me dropping that podcast, he was dropping that album, which is Ab-Soul. He dropped Herbert. So since that podcast came out and that album has released, that album is dope. Ab-Soul does it again. So this is what I've been waiting for. It's worth the wait. I already gave it several spins. I actually I ordered the vinyl. It has yet to come. So giving this album my full support. This is a dope project. And it's nice because he already mentioned like his approach to this album is different than his previous albums, and it shows in the subject matter, but it was like he still stood true to himself, so it didn't feel like he went too away. Like it's like he didn't just like, hey, I'm just gonna go straight up mainstream this album. Like, if anything, if you was to say he did that on any album, that would be These Days, which would be his technical first studio album, which I already discussed that situation before. But yeah, this is a dope comeback album. Like I said, between Joey Badass, Kendrick, and Ab-Soul, they all three been gone since their last albums for 5+ years. And Ab-Soul had the best return of all three than Kendrick and Joey. But yeah, this album is dope, man, and it's good. I'm glad to see like how he's pushing this album too. Like he dropped like 6 music videos off this album. That's like half the album already. Just being out there now, actually being a rapper. I saw that he was he mentioned that on Joe Budden's podcast where you like, do I look like a rapper now? Because he's like, this is one thing to like just be a rapper. I think that's like the same thing with Denzel Curry. Like you dope at rapping, but it's also the marketing yourself so the mass appeal can hear you and whatnot. So it's good. And not to stir anything, but of course we all know that Kendrick did leave TDE after Mr. Morale. So it's nice to see him put his foot forward to say TDE is still good despite the departure. So it's good to know. So he put a solid project out, and I believe SZA also dropped the project like right between each other. So TDE is still going strong. I didn't listen to SZA's album though. I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's not for me. I listened to her first album, and it was cool, but I don't know. I guess it's not for me. I don't know if I said that, but yeah, I guess it's not for me. I don't know. It's not bad music, but it's not for me. And speaking of me, I dropped my album, which I turned it into an EP for streaming devices, or streaming platforms. So this is the first time in my 11 year run as a rapper, so if that's what you want to call me, my music is available on streaming platforms. But the thing with this album, which also I'm gonna talk about more in depth overall with the next episode, is the trials that came with me making this album, because I had a vision, and this vision involved me asking friends for favors, which most of them agreed to do said favor, only to just about almost all of them did not do the favor. And I got in last minute favors from 2 people, and it wasn't I don't know, but it came out. Still, despite it all, it was a great project. I'm happy with the album. I still listen to my music, like, cause there's a point like when I was younger. Well, not when I was younger. Like my early music, I was like, it's hard for me to listen to it because, well, 1, the quality, and 2, because I knew where I was in my life when I made certain songs and certain things I'm referencing, and it's like can't believe I talked about that or whatever. So it's like I can listen to most of my songs now and like enjoy it because I gotten better with the stuff I talk about and then how I rap, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, there's that. But yeah, that's the music section. Then we got video games. You already know, I just mentioned I'm still playing Cyberpunk again. That's even though despite it did not come out this year, it did get revived this year, thanks to the anime. Glad that people are playing the game and enjoying it. But also another game that I played this year but did not come out this year was The Walking Dead, the final season. I already talked about how I felt about that game. Then the games that came out this year, it seemed like I didn't play a lot this year, but I think wrestling came out this year. I'm not sure. I think that the E game came out this year. So you want to categorize that, then yeah, I've been playing that a little bit. Played Sonic Frontiers. I don't know how I felt about that. That was a great. It's a good Sonic. It's a great Sonic game. Can't hate on it. Of course, you can easily nitpick on some things, but the story was solid. The character development was amazing. That's what actually made me enjoy the game a lot, was the character development. Like seeing how they grow, like personality wise, from all the years we've been playing the game with them. So it's great. And of course I 100% at that game as well. We got Marvel Snap, which won Mobile Game of the Year in the Game Awards. That I started playing that. That's a pretty good mobile game. Good time killer. Like each match is probably like 5 minutes long. It's not that bad. Good game. And Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty. Decent game. I haven't been playing it recently because, Cyberpunk. But when I was playing it, I was enjoying it a lot. So it wasn't a bad game. Call of Duty finally realizing like they don't need to. I think that's the thing. They realized they didn't need to keep making gimmicks anymore. They went into the whole advanced future stuff, started doing the EXO stuff and all of these weird gimmicks, and then either they go into the future or we go into World War II. And it was like, bro, just make a war shooter. That's it. So they finally basically did that, which with the good story too. It was a good campaign. And they already definitely teased the third Modern Warfare 3, so we already see where that's gonna go. But yeah, that's mainly most games I've been playing this year. I downloaded Smite again. I want to get back into Smite, but like my nervousness to play multiplayer games, because I did recently quit Apex, and for the most part I feel like I'm quitting battle royales as a whole. So I don't know. Let's see how that goes. So I want to get back into playing different games and be more versatile. So I might get back into Smite. I just gotta learn how to play that game again. But yeah, that's that. And other stuff, which is mainly manga. I've been reading the Golden Sheep manga. Well, I finished the Golden Sheep manga. Sweat and Soap I'm still reading. Blood on the Tracks I'm still reading. There's a few other mangas that I am reading too. I'm reading the Uzaki-chan. Let me see if I get the name. Yeah, Uzaki-chan. Well, that's the Japanese name. It recently got a second season on the anime, but I've been reading it. I read it before the anime came out, but it's a cool manga. Typical romance comedy. Reading Kanojo Mo Kanojo, which is a story about this dude who finally got his I guess his childhood sweetheart. I guess I don't know. I think they've known each other since middle school, and he wanted to date her, and I think she gave him like, oh, if you do this by the time you reach high school, then I'll date you type thing. And they finally started to date. And now that he finally got her, some girl came and confessed to her, and he was like, oh, sure, we can date. So he brought her to his girlfriend, like, hey, she wants to date me, but obviously I want to date you, but I want to date her as well. So is it all right if I two-time you? So that's basically what the whole story. It's a different take on the harem genre, because I kind of don't like the harem genre, because usually the main character, the guy, is a complete idiot. Like, he has no clue that all these girls like him, and he don't know why these girls like him, and he tries to avoid them. Like, he's the complete opposite. He's like, oh, all these girls like me, but he has morals and values. Like, oh, I like this girl, but I won't date her. I don't like this girl, but she's attractive. So it's like, it's nice. It's like he's mad direct with it. What else I've been reading? I read Pumpkin Night, but it started getting weird. I'm still reading it, but it started getting weird. I mentioned Welcome Back, Alice, if that's the name of it. Miracle-chan, if that's how I'm pronouncing it. That actually also it did recently get, I think probably last year, that it got a season of an anime. It's about this girl who has the ability to see the dead, but the problem is that they don't look like, when you look at ghosts, like these typical ghosts, like these dudes be looking like deformed tentacle creatures, like monsters, zombies, and she's just like doing her best to avoid letting them know that she can see them, because like when they kind of notice that she can see them, like they be all up in her face like, oh, do you see me? And she just be standing there like petrified on the inside, but she like keeping a stone cold face on the outside, like making it seem like, no, I did not see you, but she's like terrified the whole time. So there's that. I've been reading Candy and Cigarettes. It's a cool manga about this old retired dude who, I think he used to work in like a government agency, but I guess he retired. But his grandson has a sickness that basically puts him in like a coma state. Like, it's just a rare sickness. Like he's just like in a coma state where he's just like there, like he's not aware of existing. So he's like, oh, I need to get some money for the treatment. So he went back into doing like spy work, but he ends up getting teamed up with like this 10-year-old girl who's like an elite killer. Like, she's just been trained to kill. So it's a dynamic between this old dude trying to like be a spy with this little girl, but at the same time it's like, damn, like, she's the same age as my grandson. Is like this the complete difference between them two. Like, she deserves a normal life or whatever. My Atypical Girl is another one I've been reading, which most of these mangas I'm reading are ongoing. I have problems finding ongoing mangas. I need to find ones that's finished so I can actually finish them. So I have a whole lot of manga that I'm reading that's like ongoing, so I'm just waiting for them to update. But My Atypical Girl, I talked about this in the podcast before. This is a story of a girl who she'd been bullied. I don't want to say all her life, but majority of her life in school she got bullied, and I think her parents didn't really stick up for her when she got bullied. And the problem is because she has illness, which I believe as of recent they have this classified as an illness, which is just Asperger. Which I think, so they calling it something else now that she has, but what it is like she basically like has trouble like kind of understanding certain things. Like if you don't talk directly to her, she won't understand. So like you kind of had to like, you can't use like slang or metaphors or whatever around her. Like, you got to talk directly to her, so she will not understand it. And the problem is that when she actually asks questions to understand it, and her classmates, even her teacher, get annoyed at her, like, cause like, well, don't you understand? It sounds like what I'm saying is obvious, but obviously it's not. You're saying it in a different way that it should be said to her. So she got bullied for that, and because she was self-harming herself and whatever. I don't want to say whatever like that, but trying to progress the story. And she started reading a manga from this dude who kind of like who basically wrote a manga that's basically about her story, but like with different, obviously not detail, but so she was able to relate to the story. So she was planning on, taking her own life, but she wanted to meet him before she did so. So, I guess to kind of like thank him or whatever, or just to see what kind of person he is. And it ended up them getting into a deep friendship, which I think is kind of a romantic relationship they in now currently. So, but yeah, it's a good read, but like I said, like most of these mangas I'm reading are still ongoing. What is another one? I want to say that's mainly it. I can't get into all the stash. But yeah, it's a bunch of manga that I'm reading. Of course, One Piece, the greatest of all time. Still reading that. But yeah, that's mainly it. So, about to take a quick water break for my throat, and then I'm gonna get into this final topic and close this wrap up. All right. So to get into this final topic, which don't mean to end this episode in a negative way, but I mean, kind of has to be talked about. I mean, the last episode, I believe that was the last episode. I don't remember. Like taking a break, I forget. But I believe last episode I talked about the recent passing of the man who played the Power Ranger. I think that was episode 57. Yeah, with Jason David Frank passing. And I think like literally a day or so after my last episode, we had the passing of Stephen Boss, who also went by DJ Twitch, or just Twitch. He was, I say DJ Twitch because he was a DJ on Ellen's show. But yeah, I mean, it's another case of another man taking his own life. Someone who you wouldn't expect, especially like before his passing, you would see him on TikTok, smiling and dancing with his family and having a good time. You think nothing is wrong, and then he goes and take his own life. So of course, my condolences to his family. Again, another family who had to spend their holidays grieving, same as with Jason. And again, like I said, mental health. Of course, it was the same month, if I'm not mistaken. We just left November, which was Men's Health Awareness Month. And we got two passing of two figures of people, like, when you see them and the stuff that they have done and the stuff they accomplished and their personality, whenever you see interviews or videos of them, the last thing you would expect would be that. So yeah, and of course, rest in peace to him. Rest in peace to Mr. Frank. But yeah, I mean, this is again. I mean, this is also why I do this podcast as well. Not to only just talk about all the fun stuff I enjoy, but also talk about all the stuff that I went through myself and the stuff that people are going through, and hopefully, some shape or form, the right person hears my podcast and can just know that they're not alone and they can overcome this battle. It is a tough battle. It is a very, very tough battle, and there's a lot of things. Like I said, we don't know what can make certain people go from one day they was having fun with their family to the next day they got pushed to the point where they disregarded everything and wanted to just be gone. Like, I don't know, man. It's really tough out here. Of course, I urge people to find ways to deal with it. Me personally, I don't believe in trying to take medicines or drugs for it, no antidepressants or none of that. I believe that we are, equipped with the natural strength to get through things. I mean, depending on whatever you believe in, if you believe in a higher power of some sort, I don't believe that there's anything that's been put in front of you that you weren't meant to handle. There's a lot of things that myself, even recently, just despite the good things that I recently came into in my life, there's an obstacle, there's a challenge with having the good thing that came into my life, and it's like trying to not let that drown me out so I can actually enjoy the good that I got into my life. But yeah, so find another way, if it's meditation or something. Me personally, I always tell people to find some form of creative outlet or expression. Find a way to express yourself through some form of Twitch, like we usually see him, like he's on TikTok dancing and having a good time, but maybe that wasn't the creative outlet that he needed to get whatever that was on his mind out. Some people can draw their feelings better than they can dance their feelings. For me, like I said, with music, talk about my lack of friendship and whatnot and relationships in my life when I was younger. I was able to keep my head afloat for a bit until I was able to find more new ways to express myself. Find some way to get your feelings out there. If it's not through any hobbies, it has to find it through somebody that you can talk to unconditionally, whether it's a therapist or it's a friend. You already know, for me, it's my best friend. It's the reason why I want to have on this podcast, because I can talk to her, without, not with filter, but I don't have to filter my personality around her. Like, some people I'll talk a certain way with, because, that's just, I keep certain people, arm length for whatever. I don't give you all of me. But yeah, have someone that you can talk to about anything, and, they can give you perspective on your situation, and you could figure it out. Sometimes you realize the things that's probably stressing you out wasn't really that serious, because you couldn't figure out a way to overcome it, but someone had the answer for you. And it's all about taking that risk of opening yourself up to the right person And that's where the challenge comes, because we always feel like there's no one who we can talk to when we're dealing with things. Like, you know, like there's people in my family, if I say certain things to them, I get a lecture about myself and about life, and it's like, that's not what I want to hear. And then I talk to someone else who tells me like, yeah, I understand how you feel, but also like, did you think about doing this or seeing it this way? And I'm like, oh, I didn't. Like, I remember in college, this was my third year in college, and I was frustrated because it was my third year, because, you know, I went there for my associates, which typically is supposed to be 2 years, but realizing that my first year was technically non-existent because none of those classes was credits. So I was basically there for a year doing nothing. But I was just frustrated. I'm like, bro, I'm here for too long. Like, because now I'm over here trying to rush myself out, like trying to, you know, I want to establish my life or whatever, but, you know, not realizing that I need to take my time. So I'm like, I'm over here like, man, you know, I'm here for too long. These classes are annoying. Like, none of these classes are even what I went to my major for. Like, I'm over here doing English classes. Like, I'm supposed to be an art major. So like, it took a while for most of my art classes to kick in. I was getting frustrated with that. The other stuff in my life, and I wasn't doing good, and I was like, my grades was dropping, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna give up, bro. Like, my last grades wasn't great. No, like, I think I'm done. I was like, the first time ever where I was getting bad grades on like my papers. Like, usually I get decent grades on when I do papers and whatnot, and I'm like, bro, what the hell? Like, did I forget how to write or something? Like, I don't like well, how am I doing so bad? And like, each paper was bad than the next one. So my self-esteem was just getting crushed. And the person I was talking to at the time, like, just gave me a different perspective of how I should see things and how I should handle things. And I took that into consideration, and I went to go take a shower, because like, water, like the element of water is like my reset button. Like, it always clears my mind, clears my body and everything. So taking what she told me into consideration while I was like de-stressing myself, and it like just hit me. I was like, oh, she's right. Like, I'm bugging. I like, nah, damn, yeah. It wasn't that serious. I was bugging. So I figured out to get out that slump, and eventually one thing to another, to the point where I graduated. Like, I didn't give up. So it takes that right person to give you the right perspective, and of course, like I said, the right element. Like, you know, if certain things, like if it's music, for me, like I said, for me, water is my reset button. For me, like, I just like, you know, being around water, despite my up and down relationship with water, of the many near-death experiences and accidents I had. That's still just my peace place. So yeah, man, like, I know it's hard. Like, for me, even personally, I've been there. I was thinking of considering, like, maybe I might need a real therapist or something. And it's not so much because I want to get stuff off my mind or whatever, or I need something. It's more so that I don't know what I'm hiding from myself, if that makes sense. Like, because, you know, some people, like, when people deal with trauma or whatever, they kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, when you, the word is not coming to me, but like, when you basically hide your trauma from yourself and like hide it in your mind, so that, you know, you forget, basically, or you avoid trying to overcome it. So it's like I'm at a point in my life where like, yeah, I've overcome a lot in my life to the point where I know I won't, for the most part, stoop that low again. But I'm sure there's still stuff that I haven't completely overcome. And usually my dreams are a telling of that. When I start getting reoccurring dreams of certain themes of my life and I question why am I still dreaming about this stuff, because I thought I gotten over this. So I don't know what it is that I'm still hiding from myself. And that's usually I have my friend to talk to, but this year was rough for our friendship. Not so much that it went down in terms of communicating. We haven't been able to talk to each other a lot this year, more so towards this point of the year. So I haven't been able to get a lot of stuff that's been on my mind and whatnot lately out, because the person I talk to is not available. But also it's a good thing that I got this podcast so I can get some stuff off my head and off my chest as well. So it's not just completely just there bothering me. But yeah, man. I didn't want to end this on a downer. This is the New Year episode. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. Hoping this year is going to be a good one for everyone. For gamers out there specifically, this is looking like a great year. And I think for anime people as well, I've been seeing some people like post the new anime that's gonna be coming out next year. I mean, I haven't really been watching anime like that. I've just been reading. So seem like it's good. Seem like it's a good year for entertainment next year or this year. So hopefully there's something that's keeping people busy and distracted and some more hobbies, I guess. But your personal growth, hopefully everyone has a great self-development. It doesn't even have to be a year. You don't have to force yourself into a yearly thing, but if you want to give yourself a starting point, like, oh, this year I'm going to start doing this, but you don't have to give yourself a cutoff date by the next year. If it's a 10-year process, then it's a 10-year process. A 5-year process, a 5-year process. Don't limit yourself to your own growth. You have the rest of your life to grow. That's what it's about. The wisdom that you get through living your life. So yeah, and of course, like I said, for all my people out there who's struggling with stuff, especially you struggling with Christmas, probably things wasn't good. You probably spent it alone, or whatever the situation is. Try to find someone. If you gotta go on group chats or something, find people to open yourself up to. You don't have to be too transparent, but like just get stuff out your system, but not in a overly annoying way. Cause this have been some people that I have in group chats I talked to who've been like out there like saying stuff, and it's like, bro, like, we get it. You're dealing with stuff, but you bringing this up like every moment now. So yeah, think that's about it for me. And so yeah, as always, if you guys enjoy this podcast, hope you rate it and share it, and especially share it if anyone needs to hear that final part. And yeah, Happy New Year. Hope you guys had a great Christmas as well. Couldn't give you guys a proper Christmas episode. And yeah, let's continue to do our thing and grow and enjoy this podcast experience. Another year of talking. Yeah, so hope you guys have a great day, a great week, a great year. And until next time, peace.